Okay, I think we will get started. So we called it for 7 o'clock on the dot, and of course you can see from your watches that it's 7 o'clock on the dot. Never quite get started right on time. I want to firstly thank you because I'm overwhelmed with the crowd that's here tonight. This is the largest crowd we've had for any of our Lynch syndrome education nights, and I want to thank you all for your support and tell you a little bit about the program. For those of you who don't have an agenda, we are trying each 2 years, to put on some different topics so you'll get a full breadth of what this syndrome is all about, and as we learn more about it, it gets larger and larger all the time. So we are going to start with the topic, the latest research in Lynch syndrome, and then go on to talk a little bit about the urinary tract cancers, symptom screening and treatment, because they are intimately involved with the entire diagnosis of Lynch syndrome. And then something that I think is really very important, we get a lot of questions about it, is understanding insurance and genetic testing, and how the insurers actually look at these particular problems, not just in Lynch syndrome, of course, but in other disease states, and I think that talk will be very interesting. The moderator tonight is going to be Stephen Gallinger, who's here, thankfully, and I am just really introducing the topics and welcoming everyone. Before I turn it over to Steve, I do want to thank the people who are really responsible for putting this entire evening together. First, where are you? Melissa Aronson, you're right there. So our senior genetic counselor, please stand up. Sarah Samodia, please stand up. And Spring Holter, beside her, and Laura Winter, where are you? This is the best group of genetic counselors in the country, and maybe in North America, I believe. Of course, I'm not biased at all. So I'm going to now call on Steve to introduce the topics and the speakers in a little more detail.
It's amazing to see a full room for what's considered a somewhat uncommon syndrome, but it's probably not as uncommon as many physicians even appreciate, and we find more and more cases, especially now with much more liberal genetic testing that's going on around the world. We're not going to speak about that today necessarily, but certainly it's something that's of interest to all of us in medicine, because many people are found incidentally to actually carry Lynch syndrome mutations. So I just want to again echo what Zaid said and recognize our genetic counselors who do much of our hard work very independently. They provide service to many of you and others throughout the country, and they're involved in a lot of really interesting research. That's the beauty of our registry, is that it is a research-oriented registry, so not just clinical services, but a lot of research. And I'll just highlight a few of some of the topics that are not being discussed today, and we may speak about them in the future. Tay Hart is a psychologist who's looking at psychology of Lynch syndrome, and I overheard somebody, who probably didn't want me to overhear them, saying they can't get their son to come in for screening. So colonoscopy obviously is a screening method for gene carriers, but it's not as simple as telling someone that they have a mutation and going ahead. There's a lot of psychosocial issues involved with genetics that physicians don't really understand, and many families have their own dynamics. This is what Kay is studying. My lab and others, and in particular Jordan, who's our runs our genetic lab down on the 6th floor, are looking for new syndromes. Many people here know about Lynch syndrome or carriers of Lynch syndrome, but it's only a small piece of the pie of hereditary colon cancer. There's many other syndromes or these genes that we think are contributing. And it's actually quite difficult because Lynch syndrome was discovered in 1991, and since then there have been just a handful of other genetic syndromes identified in about 30 years. So it's actually tough work with new technology. We think we're making some progress. Sarah Ferguson is a gynecologist, or gynecologist we call them, who studies the gynecologic aspects of Lynch syndrome, in particular ovarian and endometrial cancer, which are important. A lot of controversies about screening, early detection, prophylactic surgery, and this is some work that Sarah's doing over at Princess Margaret, and she's always looking for subjects for her projects. There's, again, one of the other unique aspects of the registry here is that if you've been there on the third floor of the St. Thomas Center, you see it's kind of a W, and one half of the W is hereditary GI cancer. The other half is inflammatory bowel disease, which is Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. You kind of have a dividing line in the middle, but it's actually a very nice setup to interact between two groups who are fairly diverse in interest, but there are people who actually have inflammatory bowel disease and Lynch syndrome, and we actually are doing some research on that as well. And finally, Rob, who I've been introduced, is characterizing cancer risk in Lynch syndrome. There is a lot of misinformation. We try to provide accurate information, but if you go to the web, you see a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of panic generated related to genetics. And it's very important that people actually receive the appropriate counseling and general information because the internet can really be confusing. So one of the aspects of genetics is risk, or what's called penetrance, meaning people who have known mutations, what's their chance of getting cancer. And in general, the public and patients overestimate their risk, and they may worry a lot. They may even have prophylactic surgery or even other unusual behaviors related to a cancer worry. And it is one of the important aspects of understanding genetics, and I think Rob is going to speak about this. So Rob is a colorectal surgeon here at Sinai with a particular interest in hereditary colon cancer, and I'm happy to introduce his talk, which is on the latest research in Lynch syndrome. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. I will thank Zane and thank Steve for the kind introduction. And even though it will be a bit repetitive to say so, I do have to acknowledge Melissa and Spring and Kara and Laura and the tremendous work that the genetic counselors do. So the fact that you're hearing it from everybody is not because we